Today I have a special one celebrating Atari's 50th anniversary. I'm a huge Atari fan. I cover lots of Atari on my channel. And today I thought I'd share my 10 top favorite Atari games that they published, not always developed, but spanning their lifetime, going back to the original Pong to now currently the VCS. Atari has produced many games and have offered countless memories for people. I know several people grew up with Atari. Maybe you didn't grow up with Atari, but at least heard of them. I am just ecstatic that they made it to the 50th anniversary, and I want to share some of my favorite games and memories with you. And some people, they really focus on one console or a computer in particular. I just love gaming, and Atari is a big part of my childhood. It definitely impacted my collecting, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing the games that matter to me. All right, first up, going to the arcades, growing up in the 80s and getting to experience some of the best that Atari offered. I have to mention Gauntlet. Gauntlet to me was such an important release. That 4-player game that you could play with friends, and Dungeons and Dragons was huge. Wizard, Elf, Warrior, or Valkyrie, whatever you're choosing as a character. I had so many awesome memories of playing this in the arcades with friends, by myself, and Gauntlet was ported to many different consoles, but for me, it's always about the arcade, having that voice and hearing that voice, always is just an awesome experience. And so going back and playing it today, it's just a fantastic arcade experience. Next up, definitely have to talk about the importance of the Atari 2600. And the Atari 2600 really is what Atari is for many people. It was a commercially successful product, and it really revolutionized gaming because it made gaming a viable business. There was games and consoles before, but really it showed what could be done, what could be successful. And I have to go with good old Space Invaders, the first big hit on the Atari 2600. And, Space Invaders, for some people, for many people, they like the home version better. Lots of different variations that you can do, the different game options that you can play. It didn't look as good as the arcade, but it was so much fun. This is one of the first games I introduced to my kids, and, it's one I still enjoy playing today. I have a good buddy of mine, and this is his favorite game. And on the 2600, it's fantastic. It's nice that it's still affordable to get. And, if you haven't played the 2600 version of Space Invaders, definitely check it out. The Atari 5200 is sometimes the forgotten console of the lineup that Atari offered. It had its problems. I am a fan of it, but, bypassing that controller, you're going to experience lots that the Atari 5200 can offer. And one of the better ones for me was Berserk. Berserk, I do like the 2600 version. In fact, I think it plays a little bit better, but Berserk on the 5200 has that voice enhanced. It looks closer to the arcade. I really enjoy it. Avoiding Evil Auto and going through the mazes. To me, it's like the perfect Atari experience. Atari really focused and specialized on great arcade games, and this really shows the home port of this for sure, because they published it. And to me, Berserk is the sweet spot for something on the Atari 5200, especially if you have a working controller. Often too, the Atari 8-bit computer line is one that's not always included in compilations or when you think of Atari and its successes, but it was around a long time. I know computer enthusiasts really love the Atari 8-bit computer line. One of my best friends, that's majority of what his favorite Atari games are on the Atari, 800XL, 400, 800XL, XEGS, 8-bit. It had several different hardware revisions over time, but, he will talk about this game, and I'm definitely, he introduced it to me. And the 8-bit version of Donkey Kong, there's several versions. There's also an XEGS kart version, but this is absolutely a gem. Now, it is a Nintendo game, but Atari did publish it for the 8-bit computer line, and holy cow, if you play the 8-bit version of Donkey Kong, you're going to know what I'm talking about because it is so fluid. It is awesome to play. It has better, tighter gameplay than I think the arcade. It has all the intermissions. Everything is there. Every aspect of the arcade is there. It doesn't look as good, but holy cow, the gameplay, and that's where it matters the most, is all there. And it's an absolute fantastic port, and I highly recommend you to check it out. All right, moving on to some of the best memories I have of Atari personally, and I'm going to explain why. And, you know, the 7800 wasn't one that I grew up with, but collecting and going back and revisiting the Atari 7800 and what it had to offer, I do believe Food Fight is awesome. And what's cool, this is on the VCS as well. The 7800 version of Food Fight is wonderful. I think that, you know, to me, it's everything that Atari got right in an arcade experience brought to you home. And it's really, I'm excited to see what the new Food Fight's going to look like when they decide to announce a new Food Fight being made for the VCS. But anyways, going back to this, Food Fight is very much kind of a single screen experience, the instant replay. It's a wonderful experience and one that I loved playing on the 7800 once I discovered it. But the next game, and I'm picking two for the 7800, is a game that really started my collecting on this journey that it is now. And that's Robotron 2084. Now, this is not a perfect arcade port. You can use a dual stick controller setup, plugging in two controllers to the ports. There's, you know, it doesn't look as good as the arcade, but I played the 7800 version of Robotron 2084 so much. It's one of the first games in a retro gaming lot that started this collection that I have now. And, you know, to me, it's everything that you would want in a video game. It's my favorite video game of all time. Now, I like the arcade too. The arcade, you know, is wonderful, but the home port of the 7800 with no flicker is a great port of it. And, you know, to me, that was a sweet spot for the Atari 7800 and one I still play to this day. Moving on, I did have a Lynx growing up. I saved up my hard-earned money and got one. And a game that I remember playing vividly is Road Blasters. Now, I love the arcade version of Road Blasters, but the Lynx one is awesome. It has some sensitive control, but for me, you know, playing that crazy awesome arcade game on the go back in the day, mind blown. I was so immersed into this game. It's a fun little arcade game. You're taking out enemies. You're grabbing fuel pods. It's awesome. You know, to me, that was, you know, the heyday for Atari. They were making some great arcade games. You know, the Lynx was a great gaming experience. Game Boy put it in the dust with sales, but, you know, for the short time that I did experience the Lynx growing up, I did enjoy it. I had several games. Road Blasters was one that I did appreciate. My very first home computer in my household was the Atari ST520. My brother had it. He had lots of games. And one game that I do enjoy playing on the Atari ST, a computer that I got to appreciate more as I got older and understood how many games were on it, was Joust. I did a video on the many ports of Joust, and I think the Atari ST version is fantastic. What's kind of cool too is if you have a game drive, you can play many Atari ST ports on your Jaguar if you have one of those. And speaking of Jaguar, I definitely have to bring up Tempest 2000. I know for many people, this is the game on the Jaguar that you need to check out, and I agree. Tempest 2000 is fantastic, one of the best offered on the console. I know some people are out there, they may not appreciate the Jaguar as much as I do. That's okay, but it's excellent to play. And if you have a controller, one of these, with the rotary controller, you can appreciate Tempest to its fullest. Absolutely fantastic to play, and I highly recommend it if you can. Someday, at least try Tempest, the arcade, with a spinner. Holy cow, amazing experience, and one that is one of the better experiences. And there's tons of other games that I could mention, and are honorable mentions out there. Moving forward, and last and definitely not least, is Gravatar Recharge. Now, Gravatar Recharge What's cool about Atari is that they're offering their games on several consoles and platforms, and the Recharge series in general has been a sweet spot for Atari. You know, Atari is, not what it used to be, but they are still offering some quality games, and I think Gravatar Recharge is capturing that essence that made Atari great. I have really enjoyed playing Gravatar Recharge. I'm a big fan of the original arcade and the Atari 2600 home port, which I thought was excellent. So for me, Atari's sweet spot, or what they're capable of doing, is offering these kind of budget releases on the Switch, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Steam, as well as the VCS. That is awesomeness, and I'm really glad to see Atari make it to its 50th anniversary. Who knows what else they have planned. I know that they have a few announcements coming up. And, for me, it was just a cool video to celebrate 10 games that, to me, are what Atari's about. So, in the comments below, I know you're going to have your favorite Atari games and memories. So, I want to hear about those. What are your favorite Atari memories? What games do you remember playing? Are you still playing Atari? Have you moved on? In the comments below, let me know what you think, and I want to thank everybody for coming to my channel. I do lots of different content from Atari to Xbox. If you like what you see, consider hitting that like and subscribe button and clicking the bell as I'm uploading videos every week. You folks are wonderful and beautiful. Let's keep it positive. This is Immortal John Hancock, and you have a good day.